You know the high-rise condo you bought? I had a sudden thought to gift it to my parents.
What are you suddenly bringing up? There's no way I would easily agree to that.
Stop being noisy. If things aren't going to go my way, our marriage ends here.
All right. Lisa, immediately took action, submitted the divorce papers, and put an end to my marriage with Ken. A few days later, my ex-husband Ken, unaware of anything, visited my house with my in-laws and a huge load of belongings.
Hey, hurry up and open the door. Why is this chain lock on?
Excuse me, but who might you be? This is my private space, you know. My name is Lisa, a 35-year-old office worker. I had been married to Ken for 3 years. We belonged to the same department in college, which naturally led to us facing each other a lot. We also participated in the same research seminar, and before long, we became part of a close-knit group of male and female friends. However, I didn't particularly harbor romantic feelings. At least that's how I felt about it. I would later come to know that Ken had feelings for me, but during our college days, we were not each other's romantic partners. Time passed just like that, and after graduating, we each walked our own paths. We really are like two people left on the shelf, aren't we?
No, actually, in stories, the climax usually involves the main characters appearing at the end.
Oh, you're quite confident about that. I completely missed my timing, and now in my 30s, I don't even have a boyfriend.
That's what I've been saying. We are the main characters of our story.
What does that even mean?
Actually, I've been thinking about Lisa for a long time.
I was suddenly confessed to and felt an indescribable emotion welling up inside me.
I was hoping you might start seeing me as a romantic interest soon.
He said this, looking away while blushing softly. That day was too surprising for me, and unable to hide my agitation, I left the place and decided to go home. His words wouldn't leave my head, and gradually, I began to be conscious of him as well. After meeting him a few more times, I realized that I was strongly attracted to him.
Lisa, I might have been too abrupt last time, and I'm really sorry about that. But I'm seriously thinking about you. So, looking forward to marriage, would you give me a chance?
Yeah, I've understood. I took some time to think properly, and I realized that I like you, Ken. Let's start anew, shall we? Our relationship took a new step forward from there. However, as our relationship transformed into a romantic one, fresh excitement and a kind of emotion I had never felt before began to surge within me. Just spending time with him made my heart flutter. Since we had spent a long time as friends, we understood not only the good parts about each other but also the bad parts. All of it felt precious to me. When we shared this news with our group of friends, they all showed us genuine happiness.
If that's the case, I'll be waiting for your marriage announcement next.
You guys better get married soon.
I can't wait to meet your children.
These playful and careful words from our friends, while teasing, decided our resolve and, in our hearts, pushed us towards marriage. At that time, Ken poured his heart out in his proposal to me.
I know this might be sudden, but ever since our university days, I've always had feelings for Lisa. And these feelings won't change, not now, not ever. So, would you?
Saying so, he presented an engagement ring before me. I had been eagerly awaiting marriage with him as well, so I happily accepted his proposal. Moving forward, we greeted each other's parents, and both families had a successful first meeting. Many old friends, acquaintances from school, and work colleagues attended our wedding ceremony.
Look, in the end, we turned out to be the main characters, didn't we? It's like the key persons appearing in the grand finale of a drama.
You're absolutely right. Maybe today is a good day to praise ourselves a bit. As my husband said, our wedding party turned out to be fantastic. I occasionally recall that day, bringing back memories filled with overflowing happiness and joy. Life was more cheerful and fulfilling than I had imagined at the beginning. I realized firsthand that married life is a wonderful experience. That is, until we got to know our in-laws better. They were particularly very traditional, and at times, I found myself being newly educated in their values.
Lisa, when are you planning to quit your job and dedicate yourself to the family?
What do you mean by that?
A wife should enter into the household and support her husband. What's the point of a woman working? What will you do when you have kids? Suddenly taking time off or quitting your job puts a burden on your workplace. You don't seem to understand that.
I felt one of my father-in-law's stern words deeply pierce my heart. Indeed, women have the right to continue working, and there are those who wish to devote themselves to their careers as well as child-rearing. There are unavoidable circumstances. I couldn't believe it. I was suppressing my own feelings, predicting that if I stood up to my in-laws right now, they would become even more upset and spew out more troublesome words. I reminded myself that I only visit my in-laws' house during the New Year holidays and for memorial services, deciding that it would be best to endure and get along with them during these rare occasions. So, at that moment, I didn't do anything. I decided not to quit my job for the time being. Even though my in-laws frequently showered me with harsh words regarding this decision, It seemed like I was seen as a brazen daughter-in-law for not accepting their opinions at all. As a result of these continuous regrettable thoughts, I decided to try my best to win my in-laws' favor whenever I visited their house. I faithfully completed the household chores and always brought sweets that everyone would enjoy. Life after marriage certainly had its occasional small frictions, but I thought things were going well. However, 3 years after we started our married life, a change began to appear in my relationship with my husband. The catalyst was my promotion at work. Hey, listen to this. I have some exciting news.
What's up? You look really happy.
Starting this spring, I've been appointed as a department head.
Really?
Yes, it seems the project I've been working on was a great success, and as a result, my efforts were recognized.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it seems like you're not happy for me. What's wrong?
No, yeah, of course I'm happy. I'm just a bit surprised because I never thought you'd become a department head so quickly.
You always work so hard, Ken. I don't think your turn is that far off.
Yeah, I want to believe that.
It was okay at that time, but it seemed like my husband had complex feelings about my promotion. Since the day I reported my promotion, he gradually became colder towards me.
Today's dinner, doesn't it feel like there are fewer dishes compared to before? Is something wrong?
I don't think so. I felt that not much had changed in our daily life at home. Indeed, due to an increase in work lately, there might have been a slight reduction in the variety of dishes at dinner. However, I made an effort to increase the quantity of other dishes to ensure that the meals were satisfying.
It feels like there's less food than before.
I'm sorry, the business at work recently has reduced the variety a bit.
Just like that, you start slacking off. This must be what happens when a woman gets promoted.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing in particular. I'm just disappointed to see you prioritizing work over our home.
That's not true. I manage the housework just fine. Besides, you hardly help around the house at all. We are both working, so I wish you would help out more.
Housework is the wife's job. If you can't fulfill that role, then you're not a good wife.
Oh, you sound just like your parents.
What? Are you making fun of my parents?
That's not what I mean. I'm just surprised. I didn't think you'd say something like that to encourage me.
Just be careful not to neglect the housework. That's all I wanted to say.
With that, he ended the conversation. At that moment, I clearly understood that my husband was not very happy about my promotion. From then on, I was careful not to talk about work at all, and for the time being, it seemed to calm him down, allowing our married life to proceed as normal. About a year later, we decided to move. The reason was the construction of a new luxury condo. My husband was the one who brought this information to me.
Look at this building. It's quite impressive, isn't it?
A luxury condo? It seems luxurious, but it must be quite expensive, right? With a confident attitude, he dismissed my concerns.
No, even if this is a big purchase, I think we should go for it. It'll be an asset and a sign of success. Plus, it's close to work, and wouldn't it make household chores easier?
He explained in detail with convincing enthusiasm. I nodded, slowly understanding the correctness of his points. Faced with his proposal, I realized that I was deep in thought. Although there was some hesitation at first, I couldn't ignore the feeling that maybe he was right. Perhaps the time had indeed come for us to embark on this new chapter and build a new base together. There was certainly an appeal to the concept of living in a towering skyscraper, and I was not resistant to the idea of wanting to experience it at least once in my lifetime. So, with my husband's enthusiastic suggestion, we boldly decided to purchase a high-rise condominium. When we transitioned to life in our new high-rise residence, we were immediately struck by the sheer level of comfort and tranquility it brought to our daily lives. The convenience was obvious, and the sense of satisfaction it provided was unexpected but wholly welcomed.
Didn't I tell you? This purchase was a great decision. Look at this view. It's unparalleled. Living here is like a dream.
Ken declared, his voice carrying a sign of victory, clearly satisfied with this life. We had started building our nest in the clouds. Indeed, you're right. I can't argue with that. Being close to the office makes the daily commute incredibly easy. It was evident that both of us were deeply satisfied with our new living situation, and this mutual contentment seemed to breathe new harmony into our married life. I harbored the desire that this harmony would deepen even further, especially when I imagined the possibility of expanding our family. Our newfound marital bliss was soon to be challenged by the frequent interference of our in-laws.
What a wonderful home.
She unabashedly expressed her admiration as she stepped through our front door, her eyes clearly scanning the vast space with approval.
The space, the view, everything is so impressive.
He agreed, nodding in appreciation as he took in the panoramic view from the living room window.
Yes, we love it here.
Ken responded, but there was a hint of pride creeping into his voice as he soaked in their praise.
Ken, you've really outdone yourself. to be living in such a wonderful place.
She continued, her words laden with admiration.
You've really raised a son to be proud of.
He also agreed, his tone overflowing with paternal pride. Every time they praised Ken, I felt an invisible frustration behind my smile. The house they were praising was just as much a product of my income as it was of other factors. However, Ken didn't mention this at all, allowing his parents to indulge in the illusion that he had single-handedly orchestrated our rise to the pinnacle of urban living. In this situation, I didn't feel too bothered by my in-laws' visit. What they thought about our new home didn't really affect my life. After their initial visit was over, they would be satisfied, and I figured I could go along with them and get through it peacefully as usual. However, what happened next was beyond my imagination. My husband suddenly made a shocking declaration.
I've decided to give this tower mansion to my parents.
What are you talking about? I can't just accept that when you bring it up out of the blue.
If you have a problem with that, we're getting a divorce.
I was astonished by my husband's outrageous claim to transfer the room I had bought to my in-laws. Moreover, he threatened to divorce me if I opposed. He handed me the divorce papers with a triumphant expression, already signed by him.
I've already signed here. I'm serious about this. You don't want to become single through divorce, do you?
Apparently, he thought I would be afraid of divorce. And perhaps he had been asked by his parents to give them the mansion. Or maybe the purchase of this condo was part of a plan from the beginning to eventually give it to his parents. If the room became his parents' home, it would eventually be his. His parents would be able to live a comfortable life. In other words, all of this was nothing but a scheme by my husband to use my assets. The moment I grasped the full picture of his scheme, the affection I should have felt for my husband vanished like smoke. Fine. If that's what you want, I have no choice but to follow. As I responded this way, my husband, trying to hide his triumph, said,
That's the wisest choice.
I continued to play the obedient wife on the surface, while internally planning how to turn the situation to my advantage. Convinced that things were going as he had planned, my husband put the divorce papers deep into a drawer and happily went to his room. The next morning, as soon as I confirmed that my husband had left for work, I hatched a plan and quickly called my workplace to take a leave of absence. Then, I opened the drawer where my husband had hidden the divorce papers, carefully took them out, and quietly left the house. After that, I swiftly took legal action, officially finalized the divorce, and freed myself from my husband's control. The house legally became mine, and I also started the process of changing the locks. My now ex-husband, believing that his plan had succeeded, seemed to be under the illusion that I was still dancing in the palm of his hand, unaware of the upcoming events.
I'm planning to invite my parents over soon.
What? You're inviting your parents over even though we haven't settled on where we are going to live yet?
We're going to live together. If you have a problem with that, divorce is the only option. Well, you also have the option to leave by yourself.
His words were meaningless to me at this point because I had already taken my freedom into my own hands. His vain smile emerged through the deep fog of ignorance. In the corner of my heart, I secretly enjoyed progressing my plan while he continued to misunderstand the situation. Arranging everything behind his back was the key to my freedom. On the fateful day, my ex-husband, completely unaware of the situation, stood in front of the door of my condominium with his parents and unexpectedly a lot of luggage. I had already known the date of their arrival and had not missed the fact that my ex-husband would be out to pick them up. During his absence, I had secretly moved all my personal belongings using a delivery service. As soon as they arrived at my new residence, I had already used the changed lock to securely chain the front door from the inside. I could hear the frustrating sound of them trying to open the door, but entry was not permitted. My ex-husband's voice, filled with anxiety and confusion, leaked through the wall. As he faced the harsh reality, I reluctantly approached the entrance. Oh, what seems to be the problem?
Hey, what are you doing? Hurry up and unlock this chain. Why are you doing this?
While he raised a fuss, I responded in a calm yet puzzled tone. Excuse me, but who are you?
Oh, what are you talking about? Hurry up and open the door.
His irritation grew as he pressured me to open the door quickly. Next to him, his parents, aggravated by the weight of the luggage they were holding, demanded a quicker response. I'm sorry, but why do I have to welcome complete strangers into my home?
What?
His eyes widened in disbelief, and he stood there, utterly dumbfounded.
What on earth is going on here?
His voice was filled with confusion, and the air around them grew tense.
You didn't actually go to the city office and submit the divorce papers, did you?
Yes, every time you suggested divorce, it seemed like the best option for me. So, I went ahead and proceeded with the paperwork.
But why would you take such a decisive action without any prior discussion?
This wasn't a situation for discussion. You were always trying to control me with your threats.
Still, who could have imagined that you would actually go through with the divorce just because of my words?
Well, I'm right here. I may not be as imaginative as you, but I do have some foresight.
Regardless of the divorce, it's outrageous for you to continue living in this house. You should leave.
We are right. You have no right to unjustly occupy our house.
However, this property is legally mine. It seems like Ken has told you a different version of the truth.
Is that true, Ken?
Pressured by his mother's questioning, Ken found himself in a tight spot, fumbling for words and searching for an appropriate explanation. I, maintaining my composure, turned to them and began to explain the facts calmly. I bought this house with my income from the managerial position at the company I work for. With his salary, it would have been impossible to purchase such a spacious and comfortable home.
Ken, is that true?
Son, are you saying you are not the legal owner of this house?
But we reached an agreement under the condition that she would prepare the house as a present for my parents when she said she would.
What I agreed to was your proposal of let's get divorced if you don't like it. I never promised to give up the house. Besides, I've already sent your belongings back to your parents' house, so they are no longer here. I'm sorry, but why should I have to welcome people who are essentially strangers into my home?
What? Seriously? I just decided to sell that house, and we need to move everything out by the end of this month.
That problem is yours to solve. We are now strangers, both legally and emotionally. Please handle your own affairs. I stated this without any room for compromise. With a look of desperation in his eyes, he pleaded for some kind of concession.
But can't you just forgive me, just for a little while?
However, I coldly rejected his request. No, I can't permit that. If you insist on staying here, I won't hesitate to call the police. With a tremor in his voice, he echoed her statement.
The police.
Following this exchange, the former in-laws seemed to scurry away from the scene as if frightened by something. Later, the ex-husband went to his childhood home on foot, only to find that he no longer had a place there. The house that was once filled with his family had already been sold to new owners, and he was forced to hurriedly look for another place to live. His parents only had a modest pension income to rely on, which left them without the luxury of choosing where to live. As a result, the ex-husband found a cheap rental apartment, and he started living there in a small, run-down room with his parents. Occasionally, he would send emails attempting to rekindle the affection they once shared, but I completely ignored them. Meanwhile, I moved into a towering skyscraper at the heart of the city and invited my parents to start a new life together. If the ex-husband should come by for any reason, I could easily turn him away. Fortunately, my parents quickly grew accustomed to the new apartment and seemed to genuinely enjoy their new life. In this way, they planned to continue supporting each other and deepening their familial bonds.